Welcome to the Stoic Tide. There's a moment that happens in every man's life, if he's lucky, when everything he thought he understood about women suddenly shifts. It's not a technique he learns or a strategy he discovers. It's a fundamental change in perception that transforms not just how he relates to women, but how women relate to him. The secret I'm about to share isn't about getting women to like you, sleep with you, or validate you. It's about seeing women as complete human beings rather than objects of desire, sources of validation, or puzzles to solve. And paradoxically, this shift in perspective makes you infinitely more attractive than any technique or strategy ever could. This isn't feel-good philosophy or political correctness. This is practical psychology that will transform your relationships with women, professional, platonic, and romantic. Because once you understand this secret, you can never go back to seeing women the way you did before. Let me explain the revelation that changes everything. The prison of perception. For most of my life, I saw women through a very specific lens. Every interaction was filtered through questions about attraction, availability, and potential romantic outcomes. When I met a woman, part of my brain was immediately assessing, is she single? Is she interested? What do I need to do to make her interested? Even with women I wasn't romantically interested in, there was this constant low-level awareness of their presence as women rather than just as people. Female coworkers weren't just colleagues, they were female colleagues. Female friends weren't just friends, they were potential romantic interests or women I'd decided not to pursue. This lens was exhausting, not just for me, but for every woman I interacted with. They could sense consciously or unconsciously that I wasn't fully seeing them as complete people. I was seeing them through the filter of my own needs, desires, and agendas. The breakthrough came when I realized something uncomfortable about myself. I had been unconsciously treating women as supporting characters in my own story, rather than recognizing them as the protagonists of their own equally complex lives. Think about how you experience your own internal world. You have dreams, fears, insecurities, hopes, memories that shape who you are. You have entire internal narratives about your past, present, and future. You have relationships that matter to you, goals that drive you, wounds that still hurt, and joys that sustain you. Now here's the revelation. Every woman you've ever met has exactly the same depth of internal experience. She's not a character in your story. She's the main character in her own story with a narrative just as complex and meaningful as yours. When I truly absorbed this truth, not just intellectually but viscerally, everything changed. Seeing full humanity, the coffee shop moment I mentioned earlier, became transformative. When I stopped thinking about the interaction in terms of myself and started seeing the situation from her perspective. She wasn't a woman who might or might not be interested in me. She was a person having a frustrating moment, trying to juggle too many things at once, probably running late for something important, experiencing the same kind of daily stress and hassle that I experience constantly. When I offered to help, it wasn't a strategic move or a pickup attempt. It was one human being offering assistance to another human being who was clearly struggling. The difference in energy was palpable. She accepted gratefully, we had a brief friendly exchange, and we both went on with our days. But something had fundamentally shifted in me. I had broken through decades of conditioning that taught me to see women primarily through the lens of potential romantic or sexual interest. This shift manifested in countless ways across all my interactions with women. At work, I started actually listening to female colleagues' ideas without the subtle undercurrent of attraction or competition affecting my perception. In social situations, I began having genuine conversations with women without constantly monitoring whether they were interested in me romantically. With women I was actually interested in romantically, the change was even more profound. Instead of trying to perform attraction or execute strategies, I became genuinely curious about who they were as complete people. What were their actual goals, fears, passions, and perspectives? What was their life actually like beyond how it might intersect with mine? This approach transformed my dating life, because women could sense that I was actually seeing them, rather than just seeing a projection of my own desires and needs. They felt heard, understood, and valued as complete human beings rather than as potential partners or sources of validation. The empathy revolution. Once you start seeing women as full human beings with their own complex internal lives, empathy becomes automatic rather than effortful. You begin to understand their experiences not as abstract concepts, but as real lived realities that shape how they move through the world. I started noticing things I'd never paid attention to before. How women are constantly managing their safety in ways men rarely think about. Choosing parking spots based on lighting, checking their surroundings before getting out of cars, thinking twice about walking alone at night, how they navigate professional environments where they're often underestimated, interrupted, or not taken as seriously as male colleagues, how they handle the constant low-level assessment from men that can make even simple activities like going to the gym or grocery shopping feel like navigating a minefield. This awareness didn't come from reading statistics or hearing political arguments. It came from actually paying attention to women's experiences and believing them when they shared what their lives were really like. A female friend once told me about how exhausting it was to be constantly vigilant about men's reactions to her rejecting their advances. "Every time I say no to a guy, I have to manage his emotions," she explained. "Will he get angry? Will he keep pushing? Will he make me feel guilty?" Even when men accept rejection gracefully, I still have to navigate that interaction carefully. Before my shift in perspective, I might have heard this as her complaining or being dramatic. After I recognized it as a real description of a lived experience I'd never had to deal with, I began understanding that what felt like simple friendly interest from my perspective might feel like pressure or burden from hers, especially if she'd already had multiple similar interactions that day. This empathy didn't make me less masculine or attractive. If anything, it made me more so because I was finally able to create genuine comfort and safety in my interactions with women. They could sense that I actually cared about their experience rather than just caring about how they experienced me. The liberation of letting go. The most unexpected outcome of this shift was how liberating it felt to stop constantly managing my image and performance around women. When you're no longer trying to be attractive or impressive or desirable every moment, you can finally just be yourself. I realized that so much of my mental energy had been devoted to monitoring and managing how women perceived me. Was I funny enough, confident enough, interesting enough? Every interaction carried this underlying pressure to perform masculinity or attractiveness in specific ways. When I let go of that performance and started simply being present as myself with all my genuine interests, quirks, strengths, and limitations, everything became easier. Conversations flowed more naturally because I wasn't constantly editing myself. Connections deepened more quickly because I was offering authenticity rather than performance. The paradox was that the less I tried to be attractive, the more attractive I became. Women responded positively not to carefully crafted personas, but to the authenticity of someone who was comfortable enough with himself to just be real. This didn't mean I stopped caring about making good impressions or being my best self. It meant I stopped treating interactions with women as performances where I had to play a specific role. I could be thoughtful and considerate without being performatively chivalrous. I could be confident without being performatively dominant. I could be interested without being performatively intense. The liberation extended beyond just romantic interactions. At work, I became more effective because I was focusing on the actual work rather than managing gender dynamics. In friendships, I developed deeper connections with women because those friendships weren't shadowed by unexpressed romantic interest or complicated by unspoken agendas. The transformation of desire, perhaps the most surprising aspect of this shift, was how it transformed my experience of romantic desire and attraction. I still found women attractive, still wanted romantic and intimate connections, but the quality of that desire changed fundamentally. Before, my attraction to women often felt somewhat objectifying. Even when I tried to be respectful, I was attracted to qualities, characteristics, physical features, components that added up to desirability. Women became collections of attractive attributes rather than complete human beings who happened to be attractive. After my perspective shift, attraction became more holistic and human. I wasn't just attracted to how someone looked or even to specific personality traits. I was attracted to the whole person, their way of seeing the world, their unique combination of strengths and vulnerabilities, their specific history and experiences that made them who they were. This kind of attraction feels completely different from surface-level desire. It's deeper, more sustainable, and more satisfying because it's based on actually knowing and appreciating someone rather than on projections and fantasies. Women sense this difference immediately. They can tell when someone is attracted to them as a person versus attracted to their idea of them or to specific attributes they possess. The former creates the possibility for real connection. The latter, no matter how politely expressed, still feels objectifying and hollow. The ripple effects. This change in how I saw women created ripple effects I never anticipated. My relationships with male friends improved because I stopped participating in conversations that reduced women to objects of conquest or assessment. My professional life improved because I was able to collaborate more effectively with female colleagues. My family relationships deepened because I started really listening to the women in my family, rather than assuming I understood their experiences. Most importantly, my romantic relationships became infinitely more satisfying. When you see your partner as a complete human being with her own complex inner life, the relationship stops being about getting your needs met and becomes about two whole people choosing to share their lives together. Arguments became easier to navigate because I could genuinely understand her perspective, rather than just defending my own position. Intimacy deepened because I was interested in her actual thoughts and feelings rather than just wanting her to fulfill a role. Connection sustained over time because I was in relationship with a real person, rather than an idealized projection. I watched other men go through similar transformations and saw the same pattern repeat. Genuine respect and recognition of women's full humanity led to better relationships, more authentic connections, and ironically, greater romantic success than any strategy or technique ever could have provided. The practical application: this isn't just philosophy. It has immediate practical applications for how you interact with women every day. When you meet a woman in any context, practice seeing her as the protagonist of her own story rather than a supporting character in yours. Notice your own internal narrative. Are you immediately assessing attraction, availability, or interest? Are you thinking about what you need to do to impress her? Are you managing your image and presentation? These are signs you're still operating from the old perspective. Instead, try genuine curiosity about her actual experience. What might her day have been like? What challenges might she be navigating that you know nothing about? What are her actual interests, goals, and concerns beyond how they might intersect with your interests? In professional settings, notice whether you take women's contributions as seriously as men's. Do you interrupt women more than men? Do you assume competence automatically? Or does she have to prove herself more thoroughly than male colleagues would? In social situations, notice whether you're having genuine conversations or performing. Are you actually interested in what she's saying? Or are you waiting for your turn to say something impressive? Are you listening to understand or listening to respond? In romantic contexts, notice whether you're interested in her as a complete person or primarily focused on whether she's interested in you. Can you be genuinely happy about getting to know an interesting person, even if it doesn't lead to romance? These small shifts in awareness and intention create massive changes in how you're perceived and how your interactions unfold. The secret that changes how you see women isn't complicated, but it requires genuine inner work that most men never do. It's the shift from seeing women through the lens of your own needs and desires to recognizing them as complete human beings with their own equally valid and complex internal lives. If this video challenged your perspective or made you think differently about your interactions with women, hit that subscribe button and share your thoughts in the comments. This kind of conversation is crucial for helping men develop healthier, more authentic ways of relating. And remember, the goal isn't to become perfect at this or to never see women through the lens of attraction. The goal is to develop awareness of your own patterns and to gradually expand your capacity to see and relate to women as the full complex human beings they actually are. That awareness alone will change everything. Thank you for watching. If you find this video valuable, then please hit the like button and subscribe my channel.